But how did you actually make a product? Like, what did you know about fulfillment and packaging and chemists and QA process and graphics and all that stuff? You were starting in your living room. You did all the jobs. Like,
Yeah.
get it, girl.
Thank you. I love that. Yeah. And also like my whole goal was that like, by the way, I authentically believe that accessible is aspirational. Like I authentically in every ounce of my being believe every person's beautiful. You know what I mean? And so for me, it was like this big thing of how do we shift perspective around that? Um, when I grew up and I would see beauty ads, I loved them, but they also made me like doubt I was enough, right? I loved these commercials I saw and I always wanted to look like them. And, but what I realized is that, if we could shift perspective to this idea that I believe that every person's beautiful, like you can help, first of all, heal a lot of people, but also from a lot of not enoughness. But also, my whole hope with It Cosmetics was to put out images for every little kid who's about to see these beauty ads and start doubting themselves, and every grown person who still does. So it was this big monster ambition for a company that for years, as you mentioned, started in our living room, wasn't selling anything, didn't know how I was going to make it. And I had to figure out how to do almost every job because, in the beginning, we poured all of our money into R&D, into making a product. And then I had no money to hire anybody. And then all of a sudden we weren't selling anything. And so one thing I think is important to talk about, it's a big reason why I wrote about a lot of this in Believe It, my new book that I just launched, because I feel like today in 2021, when you see social media and you see people's websites, you don't see this part of it. And when you're a founder and you're sitting there going, I can't afford to hire more people, and I don't sometimes you feel alone in your own struggles, or like you're the only one, or like you're failing, or like you're not going to make it. And, I think that sharing these stories behind the stories is really important. So yeah, I mean, we were in our living room and, couldn't afford to hire people. So my husband this is so old school, but he bought this, because you have to figure out how to do every job the best you know how. That's kind of the only option, right? So he bought this HTML for Dummies, built our first website. And I'll never forget, because all the stores were telling us no. I'm like, okay, we're going to go direct to consumer. Like, this product is so good. I believe in it. And the first day our website launched, I was like, this is going to be huge. And I felt like a little kid on Christmas morning, just freaking out. And I'll never forget, it went live. And the first day we had no sales, and the second day, no orders, third day, no orders. And we were a few weeks in. I finally said to him, anyone who works with like a friend or a family member, they'll know this. But I said to him, I'm like, it's broken. You did it wrong. Like, there's no way, like, this product is so good. There's no way we're getting no orders. Anyways, several weeks in, we finally got our very first order for It Cosmetics, and we're in our living room, and I was like screaming, running around. I was so excited. And then he says to me, he goes, that was me. He goes, I placed that order to prove to you the website's not broken. I didn't build it wrong. And so it was really tough. And, it was like every job we kind of had to figure out, right? And you and I were kind of laughing about this before the start of the event today. But, I couldn't afford to hire anyone. So like, my name's Jamie Marie Kern Lima. And, so I had the CEO role of the company, but so then I had my middle name as Marie. She got her own email address, and Marie started heading customer service and heading PR. And so Marie at cosmetics.com would like email Good Morning America and email all the shows and be like, great news, our founder, Jamie's available for an interview, and great news, we have this big product launch. And anyways, it was just like so scrappy and, and really, really unglamorous. And the one thing I think is a little different and getting harder right now that I'll say for founders is with a social media, digital driven world right now, it's so tempting to spend money on things that look really good online, but don't actually serve your customers. And prioritizing I see so many entrepreneurs like right now prioritizing, because I know their businesses, because I've invested I own over parts of over 15 companies, and I invest in so many female founder brands. And the biggest temptation I see is spending money on things that I don't want to just say feed our ego, but make us feel legit as a company, right? And I see so many people prioritizing flash over cash. And that is a huge mistake. And it's so easy to do. And in my journey, I mean, I've now had the blessing of meeting tens of thousands of entrepreneurs, and, most of them don't make it. And I see a lot of them and the way that they even spend their money as a business. And I'm talking, Nicole, too, about like down to the nitty gritty things. Like, we would be at QVC and they would rent a nice car. And I'm like thinking, and when you're an entrepreneur and you're scrappy, every penny matters. And I'm like, oh, I mean, now we have Uber, which is great, but I'm like, oh, it's like I'm going economy, bottom of the, like every penny needs to go into your business, not into the things that are, in the journey. And so I think, but with social media, I think it's a really big thing now that impacts a lot of people as they start spending their money the wrong way, just so everything looks good online.
And these jobs are not that hard, I suppose. You figured it out by being a PR person. You learned all this stuff in addition to having jewel tone clothing from local news times and getting a lot of press. You did get a lot of press for yourself. And you also learned about contouring super early on, which I love. But it sounds like sometimes you can be too early in big trends.
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a funny story. And a lot of people probably remember the big contouring boom that started with the palettes and some celebrities getting into it. And, I had my weight always fluctuated and I was always getting in trouble for gaining weight back in the days when I was a news anchor. And I learned to contour so good. I learned to contour. And so, yeah, we launched contouring palettes for face and body. It was some of our first products. And they didn't sell, like literally didn't sell. And they were so innovative. I'm so proud of them. Didn't sell at all. And a couple of years later, some of the much bigger brands at the time actually knocked off our products exactly, like the exact colors, the exact palettes, the exact design. And they had huge market share and they hit at the right time. So yeah, sometimes timing, just being first isn't always optimal. I think it's UFC fighter Conor McGregor, and I do not watch UFC, but he has a quote that I talk about in my book where he says, precision beats power and timing beats speed. And it's a really good quote. And it's really, I talk a lot and believe it in the book about how I built $1 billion company from nothing. And this idea of precision beats power, right? Because the beauty industry, like so many industries, is an industry of giants. And to enter it and to kind of like pass all of them takes a really different focus. And I think it's not always about being the biggest company. It's not always being about the first to market. I think it's about really doing it authentically and not wavering with your secret sauce and learning how to trust your gut over anyone else's advice.
And I know we're almost out of time. I could talk to you forever, but just really quickly, I know that timing is so important. And this is something that comes up a lot in Founder Made about taking outside money. You're really close to taking an outside investment. Can you tell us that story and why you're happy you didn't?
Yeah, our journey with investors was wild. We were a few years into the business. I didn't know how we were going to make it. We got down to under $1,000 in our bank account, personal and company combined. And we got an inbound interest from a huge private equity company. And I was so excited, Nicole. I thought like, oh my gosh, this is going to be life-changing. If, because this was a private equity firm that was really well known for investing in unknown companies and making them household names and consumer products. And so we started doing meetings with them and they loved our product. And we got to we did the diligence phase and several meetings. I'll cut the story short. I talk more about it and believe it in the book, but we got to the final meeting and the head guy, so we flew up in person for it, and the head investor said, congratulations, we really believe in your product. And he was in person about 3 feet from me. And he says, but it's a no, we're going to pass on investing in IT Cosmetics. And I was like devastated because I thought, oh my gosh, I don't want to go bankrupt. And maybe he could, if they said yes, maybe they could help get us in all these stores. And he said, it's a no, we're going to pass. And I said, can you tell me why? Because, feedback is a gift usually. And I'll never forget, he was 3 feet from me and he says, do you want me to be really honest with you? And I was like, yes, please. And he says, I just don't think women will buy makeup from someone who looks like you with your body and your weight. And I remember in this moment, like the words, I remember his mouth moving. I remember feeling his breath actually, but I remember him saying, I just don't think women will buy makeup from someone who looks like you with your body and your weight. And first of all, a lifetime of body doubt, self-doubt, like flooded in my body. I mean, later I went in my car and cried, but in that moment, I'll never forget this. When he was saying those words to me, like I got this feeling in my gut, deep in my gut that said, he's wrong. Like I felt it, right? And the next several years, I didn't talk to him. I didn't see him or interact with him again for 6 years. But over the next 6 years, and I think, first of all of us go through experiences like this in life where someone literally looks us in the eye and tells us we're not enough or change who we are to make it. And, over the next 6 years, there were so many times where his words would come in my head. I would literally have to imagine myself turning down the volume on him, right? Like I was talking about earlier. And that feeling I had, that gut feeling that said he's wrong, I would turn the volume up on that in my own mind. I would give that space in my own mind and I would trust it. I would trust that he was wrong. And, on the journey, there were a lot of other people that were amazing. And we did take on private equity a few years later. And that was an amazing experience, with TSG, TSG Consumer Partners. They're like great friends now in our personal life. It was such a good experience, but 6 years later, just to wrap this up, when the day we sold to L'Oreal, so L'Oreal bought IT Cosmetics and made the decision, because they're a public company, to announce the purchase price. So it was all over the press that day and the homepage of the Wall Street Journal. And it was like, IT Cosmetics sells for $1.2 billion cash. And I heard from that investor, and I hadn't heard from him in 6 years. And he said, congratulations on the L'Oreal deal. I was wrong. And I would have learned, by the way, it would have been the most successful investment in his firm's history. But just to end on this note, I talk about this idea in the book that I think, and this is no matter what faith someone has, but there's a famous saying that rejection is God's protection. Or some people say rejection is the universe's protection. And it's like, I wanted him to invest so bad at the time, but had he said yes, I was so desperate, Nicole. I didn't know how we're going to stay in business. I probably would have given him the majority of the company for almost no money. And so because he said no, by the time we sold for $1.2 billion cash, we were still the largest shareholders. And I was like, thank God he didn't believe in me. Like, thank God he rejected me. And I didn't change who I was. I didn't try to go, oh, I need to get all skinny to sell. I would tell myself things like, well, if Oprah had changed her weight, would she had been more successful? No, right? Like I start looking into all my mentors and icons, and I'm like, no, you can't change who you are authentically. So yeah, investing has been a really wild ride, and you encounter so many forms of rejection in it. I'm glad we did it in the long run. But it was quite a journey.
Quite a journey indeed. It's such a great story. My blood is boiling thinking about that man. I just want to punch him in the face. But he did apologize. So I hate him just a little bit less. But I love the fact that you were laughing all the way to the bank because you believed it. You're such an it girl. And this is such a great way to start the day. Several shots of espresso in all of our motivation lattes this morning. Cheers.
There is so much sweat, tears, rejection, struggle, so much that is just packed in to that one headline. And so that's what I wanted to ask you about, how it started, why it started, and how you got from there to where you are now.
Yeah, Angie, thank you for that. It's so true. And thanks for covering those kind of stories on your show too, because I think when we just see the headline, of everything looks easy. It looks like, oh, maybe they have what it takes to succeed, but I'm not getting traction, or I keep getting rejected, or, and part of why I wrote Believe It, my book, is because I kept getting messages from women online constantly saying like, did you just get lucky, or was it easy? And then they feel alone in their own struggles or alone in their own setbacks. And so I feel like when we share the stories behind the stories, it's how we all realize like, oh, it's possible for me to, go from not believing in myself to believing in myself, or not trusting myself to trusting myself. And that's really what my story is all about. I started It Cosmetics in my living room. And as we're talking now, right now, at this moment, it's the largest makeup company in the country, largest luxury makeup company, which is wild. But, what's so important to share is that it almost didn't happen, and it almost didn't make it a million times. And my real journey was, from the point I finally launched it in my living room, it was 3 years of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of no's from all of the beauty retailers and department stores. I used to always put on a pedestal, and I loved shopping in their stores. And I thought, oh, I'm going to launch my idea into the world and they're just going to love it like I do. And that is not what happened. It was literally everyone saying, change this, change that. We don't think this is going to work. We don't think customers will buy makeup from people that are real. Like we think, change that. And it was just no after no after no after no. Some of them even said, you're not the right fit for us or our customers. And today we're a top selling brand in all their stores, but 3 years of them saying no, and not just no for now, but like no forever. And just how do we not let rejection talk ourselves out of our dreams is really the journey. That's really the journey. Because anyone facing rejection right now, the most important thing is they know they're not alone. And it's just part of every journey, really.
I'd love to go a little bit deeper on this process, Jamie, if that's okay with you, because I think you're right. Like, I think people really struggle with that. And I think you see oftentimes, like when people don't make it work, it's because that sense of purpose, it's that sense of meaning. So I'm curious, kind of, how long ago was this when you kind of, you said you took you 2 years until you had this catalyst. How long ago was that?
So 06 and 07, 2006, 2007. And then I eventually just decided like, I'm going to go for it. And, it's a funny story, but I was on my honeymoon flight to South Africa and wrote the business plan on my honeymoon with my husband, which is, by the way, the least romantic way to start any marriage, is to write your business plan on your honeymoon. And then for anyone listening who runs their business or with like a loved one or family or partner or friend, it is wild how difficult it is to navigate like all of the blurring of lines in the relationship. But I think when you go into it the first time, you think like, oh, but you trust that person more than anybody, and it's just going to be great. And it ended up being great, but really hard. But anyhow, wrote the business plan on our honeymoon flight to South Africa, got back, literally quit our jobs. We poured every penny we had into the business, which wasn't much. It was every penny of savings that we had. And I just thought, if we create a product that actually works, like that really truly works, it's just going to sell, right? And I think a lot of entrepreneurs have had this experience where you're like, it's so good, why isn't it selling? Like, why is everyone saying no, and why is it so difficult? And it was 2008 when we had our first product and first couple of products, and I believed in them so much. I sent them to every retailer, every department store, every beauty retailer, every online retailer, QVC, which is a live television shopping channel in the US that's broadcast to 100 million homes. And I just had this vision, Nathan, like I saw it so clear. The only problem was no one else did. And it was like, it is so hard when people that you've put on a pedestal, right? Like a lot of these beauty retailers, I mean, I used to save my waitressing tip money to shop in their stores. And I just thought for sure they would love this product because it works. But they didn't. And every single one of them said no after no after no after no after no. And one thing I learned that I wish I learned this lesson sooner. I would have saved myself so many nights crying myself to sleep. But what I learned, I was trying to do something different, right? I was trying to use, images of real people. I was trying to sort of change the definition of beauty, and it wasn't just about the products that worked. It was about sort of the big picture thing. And every single one of them would say, like, that's not going to work. Like they would always tell me, Nathan, you need to use images of unattainable aspiration. They'd always say those words, unattainable aspiration. And they would say that women will only buy products from images they can never possibly look like. And I got that that's how it's always been done, but I was trying to do it differently. And the biggest lesson that I wish I had learned sooner is if you are doing something authentic to yourself, which by definition, there's only one of you. So if it's authentic and being done your way, it means it's new, it's novel, it's never been done before. Or if you're doing something crazy, innovative or disruptive, or, a product that's never been done before, when you're doing something different or authentic to you, don't be surprised when, even people that tout themselves as visionaries, or they're, heads of industry or heads of, retail or whatever it might be, don't be surprised if even the experts don't believe in what you're doing. Because what I have learned is so many well-intentioned people, really smart people that are truly just brilliant and believe they are visionaries, they often cannot believe in something unless they have the psychological sort of social proof that it's already been successful in their mind. Unless they've already seen it successful, they have a hard time actually seeing it working. And because they've never seen proof of it before. And a lot of people don't realize that's how they think. They don't know why they're not believing in something. But what I found was so many people, and they were people that, again, well-intentioned and really, really smart, but they're often incapable of seeing something succeeding unless it's already been done. And so for any founder or entrepreneur or person with big goals or dreams, or even, talent and art and creations you want to put out in the world, what I've learned is you have to get really good at cheering for yourself along this journey, because often people will only cheer for you after you've made it, like after you've proven it. And I used to take it so personal and really try to bounce back, try to remember my why, try to get still and hear my own gut that always said to keep going. But it is hard when you get no after no after no. And, 20 no's in, it's like you start to think like, well, maybe this isn't going to work, or was my gut wrong? You know what I mean? And I think those are the moments when you get still, and, some people might pray, some people might meditate, some people might just try to hear what is their gut telling them. But I think when you get still and you listen for the answer, I think your gut is always more powerful than anyone else's advice. No matter who's telling you no, or you're not the right fit or whatever right now.
Yeah. So I have to ask, for you, when did you know that it was going to work?
Well, it was so from the moment we launched It Cosmetics, right? This was in our living room, couldn't afford to pay ourselves, and all the money had gone into our product. And so I remember, this is a funny story that maybe someone listening or watching this will relate to. But after all of these no's from everyone, I was like, all right, you know what? We're going to go direct to consumer. Like, this product is so good. And we couldn't afford to hire anyone to build our site. And so my husband got this big yellow book called HTML for Dummies. And he built the whole first site. And I remember the day it went live. I was like a little kid on Christmas morning. I was so excited because I just knew, right? You say, when do you knew? I felt like I just knew the moment our site went live, it was going to be huge, and everyone would just buy because the product's so good. And I'll never forget the morning the website went live, and I was just, freaking out, so excited. And an hour into it, there were no orders. And then several hours went by, no orders. The end of the first day, no orders. And this went on and on, day after day after day after day. And finally, I said to my husband, which is so easy to do if you work with someone that you have a personal relationship with, I was like, it's broken. Like, you did it wrong. Like, there's no way this website's working and we're just getting no orders. Like, the product is too good. There's no way. This went on and on and on. And we were weeks into getting no orders. And then I'll never forget the day our very first order came in. I was like screaming, running around the living room. I was so excited. And my husband comes up to me and he goes, that was me. He goes, I placed the order to prove to you our website's not broken. And I was just like, oh. And so it was just like this for a long time. There was crazy moments with investors that I had hoped were going to be kind of like, the person that was going to save it all and get us into retailers. And I just got some of the most painful no's there. But it was one big moment that happened on QVC, was the real moment I knew. And this was over 3 years into the business. But something happened. And when you just feel like the stars align, or you feel like a congruency with your knowing and what's happening in the universe, and you just feel like a God moment, or whatever you want to call it. After years of QVC saying no, and that's the live 24-hour shopping channel, they broadcast to 100 million homes, and they're really large in the US in particular, and in some other countries around the world as well. But they had said no. I got their head guy on the phone once after a few years of hearing no. I got him on the phone, and his name's Alan Burke, and he was like, thank you. We've reviewed your product with all the buyers, and it's unanimous that you're not the right fit for QVC or for our customers. So there were a lot of like, not just like, oh no, not now, but like, no, right? So we've been hearing no for so long. And I was at a beauty trade show demonstrating our product, and met one of the QVC hosts and talked to the buyers, and making a long story short, but I kind of went for it. You're not supposed to leave your booth, but I kind of went for it, and just finally went up to one of the buyers in person and just like pitched the brand and poured my heart out. And I was freaking out. I remember sweat running down my whole thing. Anyways, every entrepreneur who's almost broke knows this feeling, but I was just like, you don't want to seem desperate, but you also like don't want to have any regret. So you just go for it. Poured my heart out to her, and we got one shot. We got a yes, and we got one big shot on QVC. And not only was this moment about to be the moment I knew this is going to be really big, but it's also the moment I learned, one of the most powerful lessons as it pertains to authenticity as a founder. And so what happened was we got a yes that they would give us one shot, which was a 10-minute segment live on their broadcast. And at that point, we were doing just 2 to 3 orders a day on our website, which did work. And, but that was all we were doing. And they said in this 10-minute window, in order to hit their sales goal, we would need to sell over 6,000 units of our concealer. And we had no money. So we started applying for SBA loans. 22 banks said no. The 23rd bank, which was California Bank and Trust, said yes. And they gave us an SBA loan just to cover the QVC purchase order. And right, for this one big shot. And then, Nathan, I learned it's consignment. It's a consignment deal, which was like, oh, we're not even, so if anyone listening isn't familiar with consignment, what our terms meant were that, we had to pay for, manufacture, ship in all over 6,000 units of product. But if I went live on the air and nothing sold, or just a few sold, we had to take it all back. And we wouldn't be paid for it. And by the way, if it was like a big breaking news day or something, no one's going to watch the TV shopping channel, and then you're totally screwed. And so there's all these like risk factors, which normally you should never, right? As an entrepreneur, as a founder, you should never accept a purchase order you can't afford to lose, like ever. And, but at this point we were sort of out of options and we were most likely not going to make it anyways. And so we said yes. And in this process, we hired a couple of third-party consultants that are awesome. And they help a lot of people sell their product in store and their products on QVC. But here's what happened is they all told me the same thing, which was, okay, if you're going to have a chance at succeeding, because most companies that go on QVC, they're not able to hit the sales goals, so they don't come back. They all told me the same thing. If you're going to have your best chance at succeeding, here's what you need to do. In your 10-minute segment, we want you need to use this type of model, which was all flawless skin, kind of like you'd see in beauty ads. And you need to do it this way. And I would say to them, okay, but that's not authentic to like why I created this brand. And I would say like, what if, I put a model in her 70s and then I put another model who's dealing with acne. And then what if I show my own, like I take my makeup off and show my bright red rosacea on national television and then I prove how the product works. And like, they were mortified, you know what I mean? And they were for me, like they really wanted me to succeed. But again, they'd only seen one type of way succeed. And so I was in this big dilemma. And I flew out to QVC, which is in the state of Pennsylvania in the United States. And I got in a rental car and I was there a week early and I sat in this rental car, praying, crying. Like I felt like I remember watching the front door of the building and people going in and out all day. And I knew like the next time I walked through those doors, I was either going to be bankrupt or like my whole life would be changed, but I didn't know which one it was going to be. And I think everyone can relate to this situation where like I was tempted, if I'm going to be really honest, I sat in that car and I was tempted to like not do it authentically. I'm like, well, maybe I would think things like, well, maybe if I do it their way and it works and then I can make some money, not go bankrupt, then I'll try it my way. Like I had all those thoughts. But I also know you can't fake authenticity. I also know that like there's no way, and this is what a lot of people get wrong in their businesses. There is no way to have a human connection with someone else, like a true connection, unless you show up fully authentically, like for better or worse. There's just no way. And people that even know that forget that your relationship with your customer is the same. It's the same. And I remember sitting in that car going, if I'm truly going to connect with, every person watching at home, like I have to fully show up with my authentic intention for this product. And, I remember thinking, who is my customer? And I kept imagining this single mom, like folding laundry, who was too busy to remember she was beautiful and that she mattered. And I just had this moment in the car where I was like, you know what? I would rather have her turn on her television, even if she's going to give me 5 seconds of her time. I want her to see me showing women that look like her and calling them beautiful and meaning it. Like, even if she buys nothing, I'd rather stand for that than like sell a whole bunch of product and stand for nothing. And so I knew what I had to do, but we know what we have to do often. And it's not the easy thing. It's usually the scary thing and the risky thing. And I remember walking into the building and into the studio, and we were going to get that one shot. And so I walked in, and right in the big studio, there's these cameras and the host was there. And then there was a clock that was on the ground that was set at 10 minutes. And then there was a live clock to tell you what was happening in the show. And then Nathan, I learned that like, okay, it's all on the line, right? I have this 10-minute window. Everything's on the line. And then I learned you're not guaranteed the 10 minutes. Like if you go live and your clock starts going and you're not hitting sales goals, like you could be a minute in and they cut your time all the way down to like 2 minutes left. And I was like, oh gosh, I'm not even guaranteed this. And so it was wild. And one of the one of the scariest and best days of my career and also of my life. I remember the moment the clock started and we were like at 9:59, 9:58, 9:50, and I was like, and I was shaking, I was sweating. Like I remember just, I had on 2 pairs of Spanx, which wasn't because of how it wasn't like I needed to look a certain way. I was trying to make sure sweat did not go through my dress. And I wasn't nervous about TV. I was just like the whole company, like the weight of the whole company was like, it felt like it was hanging in that moment. And I remember the moment on live television where they brought up my before shot. So it was a bare-faced before shot where you can see my bright red, bumpy rosacea. And I remember walking over to all the models, and they were every age and skin tone and skin challenge and size and shape and then I didn't know how we were doing, but I wasn't cut yet. So I knew that was good. And then we got down to it was like 1 minute left, and the host was like, the deep shade's almost gone, the tan shade's almost sold out. And it was literally right at the 10-minute mark where this giant sold out sign came up across the screen. And this was the moment when you say, what's the moment you knew? I remember tears streaming down my face. And I remember the producers were worried I was going to faint. I guess new people faint sometimes because of pressure. And they cut from my presentation and went to like Dyson vacuum or something. And I remember my husband came running through the double doors of the studio, and I was just sobbing. And I'm like, real women have spoken. And I remember he just looked at me and he put his fist up in the air and he's like, we're not going bankrupt. And I was just like, ah! And it was just like this moment where it felt like I risked it all. And at the same time, all I did was make a decision from a place of congruency and authenticity. And what I continued to learn as we grew and grew and grew, we eventually became the largest beauty brand in QVC's history. And it is to this day. And I was doing over 250 live shows a year myself for many years. And built a team of over 1,000. So I have other people going on. But what I learned after seeing tens of thousands of brands come through the doors and meeting their entrepreneurs and their founders and their heads of sales going on the air, most of them don't make it. And the one big thing I learned is like, while authenticity alone doesn't automatically guarantee success, that inauthenticity guarantees failure. And what I would observe is that the very few people that would make it with their brands, they were never the ones that, even necessarily had the best product or the most money behind their marketing or anything else. It was when the person they had go on air was the same on air as they were in the green room. Whether they were extroverted or introverted or wild, or it didn't matter. But there is that sort of like congruency and that through line of authenticity that you can't fake, and people feel it. And so the people that were truly authentic, who they were in the green room, but then all of a sudden they're live in front of 100 million homes and they're the same person, that's who customers would connect with. And for me, that was one of the most powerful lessons, because, we're now in a digital world where everyone's worried about how they're showing up in every digital platform and direct to consumer and on social media. And now more than ever, people can get distracted by what everyone else is doing. And the second you start to dilute your own authenticity or your own secret sauce, that's when you're in trouble. And so I think now more than ever, this lesson is so important.
Yeah, wow. What an incredible story.
The first thing I'll say about authenticity, because so many of us are scared to be who we really are, right? Because we fear rejection or isolation or not being included or judgment or all those things. And first of all, just one little tip, and you'll know this so probably way more than I do, Jim. But one thing that's always helped me is like so many studies out there talk about how it's impossible to have a real true connection with another human being if you show up as your representative, if you don't show up as your full authentic self, for better or worse, right? The good parts, the bad parts, the quirky parts, whatever. And whether the relationships you want to have are with your partner or your customers or your community on social media, you actually cannot have a fully authentic relationship if you're not showing up as your full authentic self, for better or worse. And so if right now you're listening and you're like, oh, well, I'm showing up kind of as the person I think I need to be, or I'm getting distracted by other people on social media because they're having great success, or their podcast is doing well, or their business, my competitors' businesses are having success by doing this, so I'm going to do that. You are robbing yourself of that actual authentic connection with your own customers, your own community, or your own friends, or your own family. That literally is the only way, from my experience, to build anything that lasts, anything that matters. Like in my journey of now doing over 1,000 live TV shows on QVC, right? I've met thousands of entrepreneurs in the green room, and most of them only last one show, maybe two, and they're gone. And I would, like, over the years, I would think, what is that commonality between the people who end up building something? And it's never how smart they are. It's never how skilled they are on television. It's never that. It's the ones that like are the same way in the green room when no one's watching as they are on air. And they're not, none of them are the same. Some are crazy and wild, and some are totally like, whoa. And some are really kind, but the ones that have that congruency, that show up on air and sell their product, whatever it is, whether it's a Dyson vacuum or a personal growth, whatever it is, they're the same, right? Because guess what? The people watching are able to connect because you can't fake authenticity. And I feel like learning that is freedom, because it is so stressful when you feel like you need to show up on social media as something that you're not, because you're trying to build a following and get more likes, or you're showing up in the dating world and you're as your representative, because whatever, it is so stressful. But like, when you realize being authentic is it's the most freeing thing, because you now no longer care if something's working for a competitor in your industry or this or that, because it doesn't matter unless it's truly authentic to who you are. And one quick thing is, like, I used to end up, we built to over 1,000 employees. So I went from not paying myself for 3 years to over 1,000 employees. And they would get so sick of me saying this, but I feel like it was one of the keys to our success was they would, tell me something a competitor was doing or a new product launch or whatever. And I would say, listen, our biggest threat to our business is not what the competition's doing. It's the risk of us getting distracted by it and like getting tempted to dilute our own authentic secret sauce. That's it. And it was kind of like staying true to that helped us actually build something that mattered. And listening to that, even sometimes when the experts out there, or in my case, the retailers were telling me they didn't believe in it. And one more quick thing is just in this process, because you mentioned, the people around you, if they're doubting you, right? Another big tool just to share with everyone listening that helped me is just everybody around you in your circle, whether it's friends, a partner, people you work with, whoever. They're only capable of believing in your dream, whether they realize it or not. They're only capable of really believing in it, usually, if like their own lens they're seeing it through of life experience and limitations has already proven to them it will be successful, right? Like so many people, even experts or visionaries, like they would never admit this, but like if you're doing something new or novel, or maybe it's been done a million times, but you're doing it your own way, it's really hard for anyone else to ever think it's going to be successful because they've never seen it be successful before, because it's never been done the way you're going to do it. So keeping that in mind, and Jim, I would have this imaginary volume dial, and everyone listening has this. Okay, imagine you have your control over your own volume dial. I think one of the biggest keys to overcoming self-doubt on your own journey, whether it's to start painting again, or to start writing that book, or to just freaking go online and make an online dating profile and put yourself out there, right? I think like one of the biggest keys is learning how to control your own volume dial with who you let speak into your life about what. And what I learned, and again, I share a million things I did wrong in this book too,
how do you believe in yourself to transform your life, and why self-worth specifically is so important to your personal goals, your business goals, your entire life. Maybe we could start, Jamie, with defining the difference between self-confidence and self-worth.
Woo! That one question, that is like the power question. I'm so excited you asked that, because for anybody listening to us, watching us right now, this one thing will literally change like your entire life. And, our self-worth is our ceiling. Like our self-worth is our ceiling in every area of our life, our business, our relationships, our goals and dreams. A lot of people think, oh, I just need to get more skill set or more experience or more, confidence, which is different. And all those things are important. But underneath it all, if you don't believe you are worthy of the thing, it will not come. And so, in life, like we don't become what we want, we become what we believe we're worthy of. And so self-worth is literally the one thing that's like the foundation of all of it, that when you learn to build it, can impact your business, your goals, your dreams, what you believe is possible for yourself. So I'm so excited. So, okay. And to your question, self-confidence, while it is so important and so valuable, is actually completely different from self-worth. And most of us, I'll just speak for myself, most of my life, I did not realize that I was pursuing all of these things that built self-confidence, but arriving at them, not understanding why I still didn't feel like I was enough, or I still felt like something was missing. And I thought the solution was to work harder and achieve more and level up to the next level. And all of that is an important part of growth and building confidence. But none of it builds self-worth, which is so important because our self-worth is our ceiling. Okay, so let me break it down. I'm really excited about this. So self-confidence, because this is something right now that every single person, every student, every
Yes.
business leader crushing it, does not matter where you're at in your life. When you understand this one thing, it can completely transform your life. Like right now, it's a big thing. So, okay, just to kind of get granular for a minute. So self-confidence, while it's internal, it is so much based on the external. So your self-confidence is how you assess your own skills and abilities, your willingness to try and to go for it, how much of the world's definition of success you feel you have, and how you feel you stack up and compare and measure to others. If you're winning or losing at any moment in time, the studies show the boxer who wins the fight is automatically 30% more confident. Our confidence is fragile. It fluctuates. It rises and falls. Our self-worth, on the other hand, is the deep internal knowing and belief that you are worthy of love and belonging exactly as you are, not as your past or past mistakes or failures, not as your successes and what's happening all around on the outside, but separate from all of that, just exactly as you are, you're fully enough, worthy of love and belonging. And two big things on this. A lot of people worry, okay, let me back up. Self-confidence, okay? Every ad that we see growing up and on television and all the things that well-intended family members often say where they're like, how's your job? How's your kids? We learn to believe once I have great answers to those things, then I should feel enough and like I've made it. We learn through ads that like, oh my gosh, if I get that dream car one day, or the 6-pack abs, or that certain level in my bank account, or the certain job title, then I'm going to finally feel fulfillment and enough. And just to ask everyone who is, listening with us right now and watching us right now, imagine, like, so many of us are achievers, and especially part of your community, we want to be limitless and all the things, which is so important on our journey to fulfillment. And another piece of that is the self-worth. And so for a lot of us, right, if you think about, if you've ever had a big goal or a dream or a hope, and you thought, one day when I finally get that thing, like then I'm going to feel fulfilled and happy. And for some of us, it may be a certain level in our business, or it might be finally finding a life partner or getting married and having kids, or, a fitness goal. It could be anything. And then a lot of us, we dream like, oh my gosh, one day when I get that job title or that, whatever it might be. And we work really, really hard, often for years. And then when you finally get that thing that we thought would make us happy and fulfilled, a lot of us arrive at that thing and we're happy for a while. But then before we realize it, we're like, okay, but why am I back to feeling like something's missing, or like this isn't enough, or like I'm not enough? And our answer to that is usually, I just got to work harder. I got to achieve more, get the next thing. And it becomes this never ending cycle where we achieve a lot and we grow a lot and we build a lot of confidence along the way, which is really important. But if we don't have underlying self-worth, we always arrive at those things feeling empty, feeling like something's missing, and just continuing to hustle harder and harder and harder. And it just goes on forever, because all of those achievements will build self-confidence, but none build self-worth. And when it comes to self-worth, a lot of people think, well, wait a minute, especially ambitious people. They're like, if I believe I'm enough just as I am, am I going to lose my ambition? Am I going to lose my edge? And it's like, oh no, when you fully believe you're enough as you are, like I have found you get more ambitious, because you're now, like, oh, if I go for this thing and fail and fall flat on my face, like it might shake my confidence for a minute, but it cannot touch my self-worth, like who I am. You become more fearless. And so knowing the difference between the two is huge. And there's a lot of great resources out there on self-confidence and on building it, which is, again, so valuable and important, but it is so different from self-worth. And Jim, maybe a lot of people like listening with us can relate to this, but I believed for the longest time that if I achieved enough, I would finally feel enough and I'd finally feel fulfilled. And after spending decades of my life achieving a whole bunch of stuff and arriving at it, still going, why does it feel like something's missing? Like this is never enough. And learning like, oh, there's a massive difference between self-worth and self-confidence. And self-worth challenges in our lives show up in 3 ways. So I can dive into that if you want me to. For anyone listening, wondering like, well, wait a minute. Okay, this is a new concept. And now do I have issues with self-worth? It really can show up 3 ways in our life.
Yeah. Before we get into the 3 ways, there's a quote in here, and this is kind of what you just said was a mic drop. It's something to the tune of, in life, you don't soar to the level of your hopes and your dreams. You stay stuck at the level of your self-worth. Whether it's in your relationships, your careers, your ambitions, you don't rise to what you believe is possible. You fall to what you believe you're worthy of.
I'm going to do a sneak peek read from a chapter of Worthy. How to believe you are enough and transform your life. Simple steps, life-changing results. Dedication. For the 80% of women who don't believe they're good enough. The 75% of female executives who face imposter syndrome. And the 91% of women who don't love their bodies. This book is for you. The time for change has come. Let's do this together. No girl, no woman, no person left behind. Worthy starts here. You become what you believe you're worthy of. Do you remember the first time, perhaps as a little kid, sitting in the classroom, that you knew the answer but decided not to raise your hand? With a slight pit in your stomach caused by the newly daunting awareness of other people's opinions, you debated raising your hand and going for it until you decided not to. And just like that, in a single moment, you began to live in a way that was incongruent with your soul's fullest expression. You doubted. You held back. You hid. You played it safe. You questioned whether you were wrong, even though you knew you were right. You questioned if you were smart enough. You questioned if you were enough. And now, fast forwarding to today, are you still the person who's not raising your hand when you know the answer? Are you still hiding? Just in case you're wrong, just in case you fail, or because you want to stay in your comfort zone of certainty? Now you're an adult who knows the answer, but inside, are you still that same little kid who doubts it? Maybe you're sitting silently in work meetings or in your daydreams, knowing you have a wild idea that just might be genius. Or are you languishing in an unhealthy friendship or relationship, knowing you're worthy of more, but not quite believing it enough to leave? Or you're the boss, but you're holding back from taking chances because deep down inside, you're afraid you're not strong enough to be a leader. Did you finally get that big break, that big promotion, that big increase, but you feel like an imposter, so you're playing it small? Maybe you really despise that other PTA mom, but you betray yourself and spend your precious free time hanging out with her. Maybe you're hustling and burned out while hiding that what you really need is rest. Maybe you're struggling with a health issue and losing faith in your body, your worth, and your creator. Do you feel unseen at your core and tell yourself the lie that life is better that way? Maybe you're working in a business, but you know you're born to run one. Maybe you're in an intimate partnership where your worthiness goes unrecognized, but you're afraid to be alone, so you're dimming your light and hiding from your truth. Maybe you're calling busyness a badge of honor when you're really using it to numb your feelings. Maybe you've been living by someone else's story of success for you because you're confusing approval with love. I've done that most of my life. Maybe you've decided that other people have already done what you can do better than you could do it, so you've been canceling yourself out of your own calling. Or maybe you've been showing up as who the world tells you to be, people-pleasing, for so long that you don't even remember who you are anymore. Self-doubt, unworthiness, and fear cause us to dim our soul's light and start playing it small, holding back, hiding, speaking only part of our truth, living only half of our life, expressing only part of our soul's true essence, craving the perception of belonging over authentic connection, craving validation and significance in a way that's defined externally, because we start to believe that these are the only paths to love, to belonging, and to worthiness. If any of these ring true for you, if you know at the deepest part of your being that you're only living as part of who you are, but you're holding back and doubting or hiding all of who you are, then you probably feel an inexplicable void in your life, an aching longing for something that's missing, an emptiness creating when others or even yourself don't know and therefore can't embrace the full authentic you. A disconnection from joy when no matter what you achieve, it doesn't bring the feeling of fulfillment you hoped it would. An unremitting feeling that you're not quite enough. A lack of feeling truly alive that you can disguise from the world with the ease of a smile. You're living your life hiding in plain sight. Okay, so maybe you're thinking like, whoa, we're going deep right off the top of the book. Yep, we're going there because your time is precious. And in this one beautiful life we each have, it's precious. And I'm not showing up to play small, especially because I'm going to ask you to show up fully in the pages to come. I wrote this book with the purest intention to give you everything I've got as an expression of love from my soul to yours. And each of us is on a journey toward believing, then truly knowing in every ounce of our being that we are fully worthy, right? And here's the thing, y'all, exactly as we are, that's the key part. We're fully worthy exactly as we are. This is one of the most critical parts of achieving what Oprah Winfrey powerfully describes as the highest, truest expression of ourselves. And it's a huge step on the personal evolution of believing, then knowing that you, exactly as you are enough, valuable, and fully worthy of love and belonging. And you are. There's nothing that you have done or could ever do that changes that. But let's go there later because chances are if you're anything like I've been most of my entire life, you might not believe me just quite yet. Speaking of Oprah, and speaking of hiding in plain sight, I want to share one of the greatest moments of my life, a moment that almost didn't happen, and one that came after 4 years of me hiding because I didn't actually believe I was worthy of it. Oprah was my mentor from afar, the one I spent every weekday as a little girl, then later as an adult watching on TV. The one I dreamt of meeting my entire life and had this wild knowing deep inside that somehow I actually would. Quote, "This is what I know 100% for sure," Oprah said as she held up my first book, Believe It, to the camera. "You don't become what you want. You become what you believe." Y'all, I did everything in my power to keep my jaw from dropping open. She's holding up my book. She made jaw from dropping open, not to pee my pants, and to believe that this moment was real and was actually happening. You see, it almost didn't happen. In fact, many of the most significant moments in my life almost never happened because for years, while my soul dreamed wildly big, bold dreams and imagined moments like this one with Oprah, I never thought they could actually happen because I didn't believe I was worthy of them ever actually happening. In fact, maybe you can relate to this. I have spent most of my life feeling like I wasn't enough and doubting myself out of my own destiny. No matter how vividly we visualize our goals and dreams, perhaps in relationships or in our careers or in our health, no matter if we even take action toward making them happen, if deep down inside we actually don't feel like we're deserving or worthy of those dreams and goals, then we won't achieve them. We'll stay stuck and never go for them. We'll talk ourselves out of them. We'll give up too soon or somehow sabotage them along the way. With some, but not strong self-worth, we might actually allow ourselves to feel worthy enough to achieving a big goal and dream. But when we do, we'll arrive shortly after still feeling empty, unfulfilled, and like something is missing. Has this ever happened to you? If you've ever experienced a sense of not enoughness, even if you know it's a lie, because it is, and you want to overcome it for good, this book is for you. If not enoughness feels like, your hidden twin, then we might just be long lost triplets. If you struggle with self-doubt and not feeling worthy, even if no one knows it but you, this book is for you. And I believe that one of the bravest and most important journeys that we are all on in this lifetime is learning the truth, which is that we are more than enough and knowing and believing it in every part of our being. If this resonates with you, I've got your book and I've got your back. See, I believe the moment you learn to trust yourself, and believe that you are worthy is the moment your entire life, the past and future generations of your family, and our entire world changes for the better. It's only when you believe you are worthy of it, whether it's of having a healthy relationship, of receiving unconditional love, of celebrating your body, of sharing your ideas, of being in the room, of being on the stage, of leading the team, of having soul-filling friendships, or of living out your biggest hopes and wildest dreams, that your greatest life and destiny start to unfold. It is truly only when you learn to believe you are worthy of it. So y'all, here's the thing. As Oprah held up my book, I tried desperately to be present and stay in my body and to focus on the thousands of people watching us live as she and I taught the class together called The Life You Want. Please help me serve at the highest level I can. I prayed over and over because I've learned over the years that having an intention that's bigger than myself is the only way to get out of my own head. Before she even held up my book, I was already struggling to believe that I was actually teaching a class with the person I consider my mentor my entire life. It was the first time that she and I had ever done anything professional together. What Oprah and I knew, which the live audience didn't know that day, is that nearly 5 years earlier, when I met her in person for the first time and we had lunch together shortly after, she gave me her personal phone number. And you want to know what I did? I didn't call her for almost 4 years. Yep, Oprah, the one person I would have done anything to meet, the person I spent thousands of afternoons as a little girl watching from my living room all alone, the person who inspired much of my career, had given me her direct cell number, and I didn't call her for 4 years. Why? Well, I thought I knew why for a long time. See, as the months, then years passed, I told myself stories that made sense. Stories like, you're not ready to call her yet. Or, everybody probably wants something from her, play it cool so she knows you don't. Or, you don't have the perfect thing to say yet. When you do, you'll know, and then it'll be time to call her. Or if she gets to know you, this is a big one that I told myself so many times, if she gets to know you, she'll discover you're not as interesting, smart, funny, successful, cool, talented as she might think you are. Until one day, I realized the real reason I hadn't called Oprah, and I wasn't proud of it. I hadn't called her yet because deep down inside, I didn't believe I was worthy of it. I did not believe I was worthy of being her friend. Have you ever had moments like this in your life where you sabotaged an opportunity? Or didn't go for it at all because you didn't think you had what it takes? Maybe this is a reoccurrent theme for you in your life right now. And if it is, you're far from alone. I believe one of the most prevalent forms of cancel culture is one that no one talks about. It's us canceling ourselves before we even try. When I realized the real reason I hadn't called Oprah in 4 years, I felt a knowing. Feeling unworthy was not aligned with who I truly am and with the person I was created to be. See, my soul, all of our souls know. My soul knew I was worthy, but I let my thoughts and my mind's deep belief about my own unworthiness overpower my soul's knowing. Without realizing it, I was letting my feelings of unworthiness sabotage something I had dreamed of my entire life. When I had this realization almost 4 years after the day I got her number, I decided it was time to turn down the volume on my doubting mind and turn up the volume on the power of my soul and my soul's knowing. I decided to trust myself, the part that knows that I am worthy and you are too, and I dialed her number. I'll share more about this call later, but first, fast forward to May 2022, when I was teaching the class live alongside Oprah. I had been preparing tirelessly for months for this opportunity, but like all of our biggest moments in life, we've really been preparing our entire lives for them, right? Whether we know it or not. Because as Oprah teaches, and I fully believe, every step, this is important to hear, y'all, and take this in, every step, failure, victory, mishap, trauma, growth, blessing, lesson, and moment of grace has always been happening for us to prepare us so we can show up in each coming moment exactly as we're destined to. Even our setbacks are almost always setups for the path we're destined to take. As the live class began, I led the Oprah Daily audience through live exercises on how to build resilience, embrace rejection, stop hiding, and to learn to confidently step into all of who they are. Oprah and I shared stories and teachings. I was in such a state of flow that it felt like I was moving inside a space that had been divinely orchestrated. Then as Oprah held up my book again, and I tried not to fall out of my chair again, she said something that sent shockwaves that felt like truth through my body. Words that I believe capture the ultimate path so many of us are on, and even if we haven't discovered it yet. Words that capture why I wrote that book, and even more powerfully, why I wrote this one. Words I believe that if we embrace can change the course of our entire lives. She said, "You don't become what you want. You can have the greatest heart desire and work really so hard, but if you don't believe you are worthy, it will not come. That is the magic formula." In my life, I have learned to believe I'm worthy in stages, through ups and downs, big moments of knowing, and small steps toward believing. In our human experience, believing our worthiness is often a lifelong pursuit, and one of the most important ones we'll ever take. See, if I hadn't pursued building my self-worth, Many of the moments in my life story so far would have never happened. The stories that the press loves to share about me usually say something like, Denny's waitress builds billion-dollar business. And while that's true, my real story is a girl who didn't believe in herself and learned how to. A girl who felt unworthy and often still does to this day, but who is hell-bent on learning to believe that she is. A girl who was placed into adoption at birth, but decided she was chosen and born not only on purpose, but with purpose. A girl who knows in her soul that at our core, we're all enough and we're all worthy of love. I'm a girl who knows that where we come from does not have to determine where we're going, and that making bad decisions in our past doesn't mean that we're bad. A girl who knows that the labels that others put on us and the ones that we put on ourselves are removable, not permanent. A girl who faced thousands of rejections for years when she was building her business, but chose to trust her gut and keep going anyways. A girl who had a knowing she'd one day meet Oprah and then learned that we become what we believe when we finally believe in ourselves. A girl who had learned that she was worthy of being in the room, of launching a business, of being called CEO, of learning not to wait on her weight, of learning to love herself and learning to believe she's worthy of love. A girl who knows that we are not our past mistakes. We are our present and future intentions. Here's what I know to be true. And this is so important to take this in. If we don't believe we are worthy of starting the business, of being in a loving, committing relationship, of having healthy, empowering friendships, if we don't believe we're worthy of a seat at the table, of writing the book, of running for office, if we don't believe we're worthy of rest, of celebrating your body exactly as it is, of soul care, of doing less and being more, if we don't believe we're worthy of showing up on social media authentically, of leading the team, of breaking the generational cycle, if we don't believe we're worthy because we've made too many mistakes, we've already failed too many times, or because someone told us we weren't worthy and we believe them, if we don't believe we're worthy of all the things we want and deserve, we'll never get them. In life, you don't soar to the level of your hopes and dreams. You stay stuck at the level of your self-worth. You don't rise to what you believe is possible. You fall to what you believe you're worthy of. In your goals and career ambitions, you don't achieve everything that you are qualified for or capable of. You plateau at what you believe you deserve. And whether you know it or not, at the level of success where you've established your own internal identity. In your romantic relationships, the level and depth of intimacy, vulnerability, and love can only be as strong as the level and depth of vulnerable, intimate love you have for yourself. It's the same with your friendships. And in these relationships in life, okay, here's a big one, y'all. This is, okay. In your relationships in life, the level of pain you allow another person to cause you, whether it's through hurtful words or actions, often hovers right around the standards you have for the level and frequency of hurtful thoughts, ways, and words you think and say to yourself. And it's the same with your body. Your body can feel like a source of shame or like a miracle in motion, all depending on your relationship with worthiness. When you change what you believe you're worthy of, you change your entire life. See, we can have big goals and dreams. We can study, get knowledge, get all the biggest degrees on the wall. We can become activists, use our voices. We can know with passion and clarity that what we believe in and what we believe for. We can make vision boards, and we can even distinguish ourselves amongst the rare group of people who actually take action toward getting what we want in life. But if we don't believe deep down inside we're worthy of it, it'll never happen. Or if it does, we won't be able to sustain it. Because in life, we don't get what we want. We get and maintain what we believe we're worthy of. And when deep down inside, we don't believe we're worthy of what we want, hope, and dream for, we'll find a way to lose it or for it to not happen at all. We'll sabotage the opportunity. We'll put the decent guy in the friend zone. We'll ghost a new friend that has pure intentions. We'll make a million excuses why we're not ready to make a career move, don't have the resources or the time or the talent. We'll focus on our problems instead of our potential, because problems can be an easy way to justify playing life small. We might think we have a net worth problem, and what we really have is a self-worth problem. And when we deep down inside don't believe we're worthy of abundance, we sabotage ourselves to make sure that we don't get it. We dim our light to make others feel comfortable and fit in. We tell ourselves stories like, once I get to my goal weight, then I'll be enough. Once I get more experience, then I'll apply for the promotion. Once I get the kids through school, then I'll focus on building a healthy relationship. We'll sit in the audience watching, all while knowing we are born to be on the stage. We'll walk into the room and all while hiding in plain sight, and then we'll start living our lives this way. We'll talk ourselves out of our potential, out of our talent, out of our knowing, out of trusting ourselves, out of our gifts, out of the relationships we deserve, out of getting unstuck, out of making our health a priority, out of asking for the raise, out of launching the idea, out of accepting a mentor's offer, and if we're not careful, out of becoming the person that we're born to be. If one of these examples hits home for you, or you feel like it's a past or present version of yourself, then this book is for you. If you struggle with not believing you're enough or worthy of walking into the big meeting, of being called good parent, of wearing this swimsuit, of receiving unconditional love, of looking in the mirror and seeing everything beautiful, of speaking up, of asking for help, of resting, of setting boundaries, of showing up in this world as you authentically are and as all of who you authentically are, if you struggle with that, this book is for you. I wrote this book for you if you have some self-doubt to destroy and a destiny to fulfill. And I'm so honored to invite you into the pages of this journey together. And I'd like to start by imagining together. See, I can't help but imagine what our world would look like if it was filled with women who decided to believe they are worthy. When I imagine a world full of women who feel worthy, I imagine the earth shaking with the jolt of possibility when we wake up in the morning. Imagine with me, what would a world full of women who decided to believe they're worthy feel like? The potential that would be unleashed, the power of possibility unfolding. Imagine the generational cycles broken. Imagine the unhealthy relationships that would end. Imagine the businesses that would be launched. Imagine the body shapes and sizes that would be celebrated. Imagine the rest that would be taken without guilt. Imagine the cellulite that would be confidently jiggling with joy. Imagine the seats that would be filled up in the boardroom. Imagine what the list of Fortune 500 CEOs would look like. Imagine the mental and physical health that would be prioritized. Imagine how our government would lead. Imagine the injustices that would end. Imagine how children's storybooks would be written. Imagine who little girls would grow up dreaming of being. Imagine the time and capacity that would be freed up when self-doubt is silenced. Can I get an amen up in here? Amen. Imagine, and imagining this is why I wrote this book, with the intention of you not just imagining what your life would be like if you truly felt worthy, but actually learning how to believe you are, because you are. And in your soul, you know that you are. Most of us are born into a world, or even into loving, well-intentioned families that, whether knowingly or not, teach us to believe that we're not. I believe if we choose to, it's possible to unlearn all the lies we've been taught that don't feel right in our soul, take our power back, and decide today is the day to forge a new path ahead. If you feel me, say out loud wherever you are, I'm ready.
I'm ready.
All right, everyone in the room said it, but don't think I didn't hear you at home not say it. So here's the deal. Listen, if you're not going to be bold here along with me, if you are going to hold back and not be bold, now how are you going to be bold out there, right? When things get hard. So I'm going to say it with you. We're going to say it loud together. Who cares what anyone around you right now thinks? Okay, ready? On the count of 3, we're going to say I'm ready loudly, and we're going to proclaim it together. 1, 2, 3. I'm ready. You don't become what you want. You become what you believe you're worthy of in life, in friendships, in your career, and in your hopes and dreams. And one of the greatest parts of your journey is learning to believe you're worthy and stop hiding, right? That's a big one for so many of us. Learning for the first time or the first time in a long time, the courage to start raising your hand, or to be the person who leads and encourages others to raise their hand, to discover the true essence of your soul, the real you, and to start living as the real you, not as your achievements, but your innateness that is full and whole and enough, and blossoming toward a new freedom and fulfillment that springs alive when we live in alignment with the true nature of the person we're born to be. When we absolutely know in every ounce of our being that the person who we truly are is enough. When you venture to stop hiding in plain sight, trust your inner knowing, live with congruence with your soul, ignite your purpose, and show up in this world as all of who you are, that's when you truly feel fulfilled and alive. That's when you are living in alignment with your assignment. That is when you become the person you're born to be. That's when you're able to fully live and express the joy and the beauty and the gifts and the ideas and the possibilities of your soul. That's when you can wake up every morning and ask yourself one of life's most powerful questions. What will you do with the power that is you? And then with that power fully tapped into, and because you're no longer hiding from it, you bravely, boldly live the answer. Throughout the pages of this book, I hope you'll laugh, connect, see, and be exactly you every step of the way, right? We did not come here to play it small or to look cute. We're going to go deep as you are ready to go. You might feel like this book is too much at times, or perhaps it's going to feel like you arrived at the end way too quickly. We'll examine our own self-worth and delve into the lies keeping us doubting ourselves, unlearn those lies, and embrace the truths that wake up worthiness. We'll begin our transformation into living authentically and fulfilling our destinies. There's some chapters packed with tactical tools you can apply to your life right now that have led to breakthroughs for me, like how to redefine rejection, how to rethink the labels you put on yourself, and how to take risks when you have a million reasons why you're afraid to. There's some chapters you might find deeply personal and stir up a lot of thought and emotion, and some might evoke the feeling of heavy reflection. Others might spark joyful, wide-eyed, soul-filling delight. I know how precious the gift of your time is, and I can promise you we're not taking a second of it for granted in this book. I am all in with you, right by your side, and we are going to go there together, okay? Soul to soul, light to light, love to love. The one thing I'm going to ask of you is this: in every story, every lesson, every silly laugh out loud, embarrassing overshare, there are a lot of those. Every vulnerable, soul-stirring revelation, and every deeply challenging question, to trust yourself to know if it's right for you. And if it's not right for you, or you're not right to consider it, then just skip that part. And you're going to know, because your soul will know at each turn of the book, the parts that are for you at this moment in your journey. You'll know if the timing is, not right to open yourself up in certain ways that might feel too much. And you're going to know if the timing is just right, and the words feel like they were written exactly for you. You may want to have a journal or pen and paper handy while reading. And as we begin this journey together, I just want to ask that you trust yourself fully. Take the things that feel right for you and leave the rest perhaps for another day or another person you share your book with. And I sure hope that when you are done with Worthy, that you share it with another person, give another person your book. I believe in divine timing and that our steps are divinely ordered in life. And I don't believe it's a coincidence or an accident that you're hearing these words right now. similarly, in this book, I'm leading you on an intentional journey, one transforming step at a time. Each chapter lays a key piece of the foundation that builds on the next, all crafting a deeply personal worthiness journey intended to expand how you see and unconditionally love yourself, from seeing the importance of and critical difference between self-confidence and self-worth, to unlearning those lies that lead to self-doubt and embracing the truths that wake up worthiness, to transforming your connection to yourself and multiplying your unconditional self-love, to knowing and truly believing in your innate value and worthiness. As we begin this journey, I want to invite you to come with me through the pages and it's who you truly are, not as the role you play at work, not as who you have to be when you're the leader in the room, not as who other people want you to be, not as the version of you that the world rewards, not as the socially conditioned belief systems that you've built, but as the person who sheds all of it, who is willing to show up soul first. Coming soul first, right along with me, is safe here. Knowing this truth, there is nothing you can do or say that could ever make you unworthy of love. I believe we are all here to love, to receive it, to give it, to live it, to be it. And our greatest journey on this earth is to learn how and to truly believe we're worthy of it. My intention in the pages of this book is that you experience the true feeling of home that fills your soul. And there's no greater feeling of home than living in alignment and congruence with your soul, with the true nature of who you are and who you were born to be, fully worthy. And yet, when we aren't living in the truest expression of our souls, it can feel like we're a stranger in our own lives, as if we're living our lives away from our real home. Our souls are our true home, and the words in this book are a love poem from my soul to yours. Let's live in our souls together on this journey. And as we get started, I want you to feel like I'm welcoming you right into my home. When I imagine opening my front door to see you, I will really see you. And you can really see me. And when you walk in, I'm wearing my favorite cozy sweats, no makeup, unwashed hair, and a messy bun, but I did use some dry shampoo because I knew you were coming. And I give you a great big hug while my dogs are jumping on you and kissing you as if they'd never gone through training school. I have your favorite warm drink in a coffee mug ready to greet you. The mug says worthy on it, because you are. After I hand it to you, imagine seeing a sign right in front of you on the wall as you walk in. It's how I want you to feel when you walk into my home or into my hug. The sign says, "Come as you are. Heal where you need. Blossom what you choose. Journey toward your calling. Stay as long as you like. You belong here. You are worthy. You are loved. You are love. I love you, Jamie." Are you ready to get started? Because I am ready if you are. And as you are about to turn the page, I'm imagining reaching my hand right out to yours. Here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, rock this house and welcome to the stage, Jamie Kern Lima! Jamie Kern Lima!
Every single one of us has had someone tell us we're not enough. Every single one of us has had someone say words to us that hurt.